Glory to Jesus Christ, and welcome to St. Cyril Methodius Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm Father Gregory, the pastor. Not quite sure what happened to the overlay that was supposed to show up and announce it, but that's okay. Better luck next time. Recently in Russia, an Orthodox priest, one Father Anthony, blessed a statue of Joseph Stalin. And news reports say that in his sermon at the blessing, he acknowledged the harm that Stalin did to the church, and yet at the same time he said, and yet look at all the good that happened. We have all of these new martyrs who are now standing before the throne of God to intercede for Russia. This has caused, a fair amount of controversy and even anger and outrage in different parts of the world, including in Russia and then in the Orthodox Church as well. And what the priests did, I think, is sort of illustrative of how we sometimes confuse forgiveness with something like positive thinking or sort of an after the fact justification for wickedness. All of this happens in the service of our being unwilling, or my being unwilling, to look at evil and look at the things that have been done wrong. And instead I try to sanitize the past. And I might do that with world history. I might do that in a personal relationship. But in whatever the context in which I do it, it is different. It's contrary to what, in fact, to what we're called to as Christians, which is to be forgiving. To forgive someone requires that I acknowledge the harm that they did, either to me or to other people. And I have to resist the temptation either to deny the harm or say, but good things happened anyway. When evil is done, when we commit a sin and good things happen as well, that's not a justification for the sin. Rather, those good things are a sign of God's grace and a call to repentance. That Stalin created all sorts of new martyrs is certainly the case, but venerating those martyrs requires not blessing a statue of Stalin or blessing his memory, but in fact taking the lesson that there was this great evil that was perpetrated, and we need to distance ourselves from that. We need to reject that kind of evil. The presence of new martyrs in Russia is not a justification for what happened, but rather a sign of the need for repentance, of Russia turning away from its past, or Russians turning away from their past and not embracing that as somehow a good thing. This unwillingness to acknowledge evil, whether in ourselves or in our nation or in the world generally, is simply to perpetuate the cycle of wickedness. This is what's happened in the invasion of Ukraine. To be perfectly direct about it, not owning, not repenting of their imperial past, Russians now are going back to that and seeking to build themselves up by tearing down Ukraine. I don't want to do the geopolitics at this point, but we should recognize this kind of thing in our own lives. I certainly recognize it in my own life. I justify my own sin by talking about the good things that happened, assuming that the good things happened because of, rather than in spite of, my sinfulness, my wickedness. See, in the end, I don't forgive because I have not repented. I justify sin in others because I have justified that sin in myself. Forgiveness is not the justification of sin. It is rather the acknowledgement of sin, and it is the acknowledgement or the affirmation that the forgiveness and the mercy of God is always greater than our sinfulness. But again, that forgiveness doesn't deny the wickedness. It rather says that there is something greater. And that's the problem with forgiveness. To be forgiven, to forgive others, requires that I acknowledge that there is someone who is greater than me, and that is Jesus Christ. That his understanding of the situation matters more than mine. His response to the situation matters more than mine. St. Thomas Aquinas was asked, how is it possible, if all knowledge is connatural, that God knows evil, that he understands evil? And what Aquinas said, I think, is really quite wise. God does not know evil as evil. Rather, he knows evil as an absence. To forgive is to acknowledge the absence of the good which should be present in the life of the person or the community or in ourselves. To forgive is to acknowledge the poverty of goodness that we see in self and others, and to say that there is someone who fulfills the goodness which is lacking, and that is Jesus Christ. So, my brothers and sisters, forgive. Acknowledge the goodness that is lacking in your own life and in the life of other people's, and be eager for that absence to be filled by the presence of Jesus Christ. Well, it's 10 after 9 here in Madison, and I've got to go get ready for liturgy. If you're here in the Madison area and you have the opportunity to do so, please feel free to come to St. Cyril Methodius Ukrainian Orthodox Church at 1020 Regent Street in Madison, Wisconsin, and come to be at liturgy with us. If you're not in Madison, you're some other part of the country, if there's an Orthodox church where you are, go to liturgy, see what we're about. And hey, if you're Orthodox, if you're one of the 7 and 10 who's not going to be at church this morning, get there, okay? All right. Well, I've got to go. Hope everyone has a very good day, and stay cool if you are hot, if it's really hot where you are, and pray for our friends in Southern California who are facing a hurricane. So, all right. God bless everyone, and hope to see you again soon. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.